Hi everyone, today I'm covering the AYN Odin Pro. I've been really looking forward to receiving the Odin Pro after backing it on Indiegogo last year, so I thought I'd sum up my first few days with the handheld with this first impressions video. The Odin Pro has a number of standout features such as active and passive cooling, the ergonomic grip design, rumble and LED lights, full stereo sound and analog trigger shoulder buttons. Not only does it support HDMI out, it also has docking support. I've received my dock as well. I'm still testing it out, but I'm sure to do a follow-up video to cover it. My Odin Pro is the black model with a Snapdragon 845 chip inside it. Not only does this have a lot more power than we've been used to in other retro handhelds, the Odin also supports the Windows open source project, so Windows should be fully compatible on this unit too. I've upgraded my unit from the stock 4GB of RAM to 8GB, as well as upgrading the 5000 mAh battery to a 6000 mAh battery as well. So straight out of the box, the Odin impresses. It's hard to get across via camera, but the Odin Pro looks like it's a first-party handheld. If it wasn't for the swap button keys and the Odin logo, you could actually convince someone that this is Microsoft's first Xbox handheld. The finish really is of such a high standard. The weight distribution is also great. The Odin isn't the lightest handhelds, but due to the excellent weight distribution, it feels a hell of a lot lighter than you'd actually think it is. And the handheld fits so naturally in your hands that you know the team behind the Odin are gamers themselves from the moment you hold it. I've played Odin for 4 to 5 hour stints at a time and haven't felt uncomfortable or got any hand cramps throughout. I actually prefer playing on the Odin over my Switch Lite now. Overall, the build quality is absolutely fantastic and really sets an incredibly high standard for other manufacturers to try and meet, let alone beat it. So just to give you an idea of the size of the Odin, let's compare it to some of the other wider screen handhelds that are currently available. First up, the Mogi i7S, which is both slightly smaller and thinner than the Odin. Next up is Ambinix RG552, which is also slightly smaller. The Nintendo Switch Lite is up next, which is very similar in size, followed by PowerKiddy's RGB10 Max 2. Next up, we've got GPD's XP, which is actually somewhat hilariously bigger than the Odin Pro. And then last up, we've got my dead original Switch. Just as an FYI, the Odin didn't fit into any of these other handheld cases. So moving on to the controls next, this is another area that the Odin stands above so many other handhelds. We've got the full suite of modern controls, including L3 and R3 button press support on both analog sticks, as well as those analog shoulder buttons. The analog sticks are embedded into the case, which looks great, but also means your thumbs aren't jumping big height differences while switching between the D-pad or buttons and the sticks. The travel of the sticks takes a little bit getting used to if you're like me and primarily used to an Xbox controller. I felt a bit restricted at first, but was able to adapt pretty quickly. Same with the analog shoulder buttons. At first it doesn't seem like there's too much travel to them, but there is, especially when holding the handheld properly and not just poking from above. Overall, I just think at first I was just using too much force to appreciate the travel that is actually there. Again, with the L1 and R1 buttons, they appear like they might be too thin at first, but they're almost perfectly sized and can be pressed from any area or angle. The only real gripe I have with the controls is the right analog not being as comfortable as the rest of the control setup. It would look bad from a design perspective, but my right thumb naturally falls slightly more to the left over from where. Jumping onto the D-pad though, and the D-pad is amazing. It's really impressive. It's very similar to the original PSP's D-pad in film response range. It's near perfect levels of travel in each direction, complemented by a very strong centre stage. It's one of the strongest aspects of a very strong control setup in my opinion, and really sells the Odin as a true gaming handheld. Multi-directional inputs in all combinations are very easy to pull off and switch between, and it feels all natural while using it with no rough edges or resistance to be found. There's an area around the D-pad where dust or debris could fall into, but unfortunately that's just the drawback of having this amount of flexibility with the D-pad. It's instantly up there as one of my favourite D-pads across all my gaming handhelds. And I just can't think of a better compliment than that. The buttons are very responsive, again with very good travel and no flex or movement to be found. This makes both precise or button mashing gameplay easy to pull off, and I hadn't really truly appreciated how well the control setup all comes together until I was recording all the gameplay footage for the emulation showcase for this review. I was jumping from system to system, handhelds to generation jumps in consoles, across varied genres of games, and the controls just felt right in each. So really top marks from the control perspective. Gamers will definitely feel at home while playing on. From a software perspective, the Odin comes with Android 10. Again, it should be able to actually support Windows amazingly, so I'm looking forward to seeing what we can do there. But for now, I'm focusing purely on the Android side. When you first turn the Odin on, you get a very simple setup guide where you pick your language, connect to the internet, pick your launcher and navigation bar style, and pretty much from there, away you go. In Android itself, there's some really neat quality of life controls available from the top control bar, including a performance setting mode, fan controller, the ability to turn LEDs off and on, as well as other options like the super awesome game bar, which you can pull in from the right side of the screen to see stats like CPU or RAM usage, as well as having access to the inbuilt key mapper and so on. Odin's own launcher is very simple and easy to use and set up. It's very Switch-like in terms of its looks, but there's lots of settings and options there available. While I prefer the standard Android setup in handheld mode, I think I'm going to use the Odin launcher in conjunction with the dock, as it's a separate customizable experience which I could tailor for use when docking specifically. So have it all set up for that kind of use case. So all in all, I've not got really any complaints from a software point of view. So I'm going to cut to some emulation now and come up to summarize back at the end.
Trust me and we will escape.
All in all, I'm so impressed with the Odin. There's no bigger compliment in my eyes than saying it feels first party. The controls, software and gaming experiences are all absolutely great. The level of emulation you can get out of the Odin with pretty much no tweaking is absolutely staggering. I think I've only actually run into problems with my personal library so far with 3DS and PS2 titles, which is somewhat expected considering other emulators have had years and years more development time behind them. If you're looking for and can only get one retro gaming handheld this year, the Odin really is worth considering. So that's it for me. I'll be sure to follow up some more coverage of the Odin later, but thanks so much for watching.